saw the original Space Jam, and she wanted to see Space Jam 2, so we all went out to see that. It was fun. It was made for 5 and 10-year-olds, not 58-year-olds. So it was enjoyable, although just really disheartening news. She told me the last time I saw her that she preferred the Jordan one over the LeBron one. So I'm think that she's going to be out of my will, going forward. So this is what happens when you knock my man.
Well, unfortunately, I was going to say that must have really disappointed you. I'm going to have to I'm going to have to pull it back real quick though, because I made a rookie mistake, John. You know what I did?
What's that?
I didn't unmute my mic, so no one heard anything that I said the first couple.
Go at it again.
Yeah. So again, if anyone was just listening and saw my mouth move and no words come out, don't worry. You don't have a hearing issue. I just have a mic issue on my end because I didn't unmute it. So I am here now, though. You should be able to hear me. And let me go back to how I started this. We have a lot of stuff to talk about today, but I wanted to start, as John started talking about, as I'm sure you guys could kind of figure out, we wanted to talk about movies. And I said I highly recommend Jungle Cruise. I had a lot of fun watching that yesterday. Big fan of The Rock. I actually remember, I don't know if this is, I don't know how, I remember going to see, was it The Mummy 2? I think that was his first movie role, which was, it was laughable in the sense that like it was just a CGI of him. There's about 5 minutes in the opening of The Mummy 2 where, the Rock was obviously there and everything like that. But for the most part, it was just CGI. So it wasn't really about him. But it was his first role, and I remember going to the movie theater with my "Just Bring It" T-shirt. Yeah, that's right. I think was the movie came out in 2001, so I was 14, 15 years old, something like that. So,
you have an excuse at that point.
Well, I mean, look, I went to the theater yesterday to go see it. I might have worn that shirt too. Let's not pretend like I've grown out of that. Actually, no, I have no idea. I don't even own that anymore. I couldn't tell you where that is. I probably wear my Tom Brady shirt like I'm wearing right now. See, but
sure.
But yeah, no, it was a lot of fun. I got a confession, John. I got a confession. I have never seen $1 Million Baby.
Ooh,
I've never seen
it.
I know.
That's the best. Yeah.
It gets to a point sometimes where people they'll recommend movies, and I almost get to the point where I'm like, well, yeah, I'm gonna see it, but then I just never see it. Like, and for various reasons. One, everyone recommended it. It was like, oh, this is a great movie. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna get around to it. I'll get around to it. And sometimes, you know how it goes. It gets put on the back burner, and next thing you know, it's been 10 years and you've never seen it. I remember when was that movie? Old Country for what?
Country for Old Men.
Thank you. Clearly, I have not seen that movie yet, but for a good reason. Right before I was going to see it, I had a friend of mine basically ruin the ending for me. Spoiler.
That's
like,
not good.
Yeah, and I was just at the end of it. I was just like, I'll watch it eventually. And then like this was how long ago did that come out? 15 years ago. Now I'm like, every time I see it, every time I look and see it on sort of streaming anything, I always think back. I'm like, I can't believe she ruined the end of that movie for me. And I've never seen it.
Don't ask her about Psycho or Doctor Strangelove or any other great movie that has kind of an ending that we're not sure what it's supposed to mean or how they got there, but it makes some great movies. But yeah, $1 Million Baby, see it, and it's incredible. The acting. Hilary Swank won her second Oscar. Hilary Swank, the Eli Manning of actresses. She's been in 2 great movies. She's been nominated twice, and she's won 2 Oscars. Other than that, she hasn't been in much that's real good. But Boys Don't Cry and $1 Million Baby are both exceptional films, and she won Oscars for those. So definitely see it. Clint Eastwood's best performance. Morgan Freeman won Best Supporting Actor. It is just incredible. It really is. It's just a sensational film. I think it's the best film of the 21st century. People will push back on that, and other ones will. Everyone can have their own choice, but that's my choice of the best film of the 21st century. Maybe the one time you watch Shawshank Redemption like once a month, maybe forego that and watch $1 Million Baby for the sake of seeing a better movie than Shawshank
Oh,
Redemption?
Okay. All right. Hold on.
Them fighting words.
Hold on a second. Look, I'm not about to sit here and down a movie I haven't seen. Certainly one that has Morgan Freeman in it. But but pump the brakes on Shawshank. All right, we all know that is one of the greatest, if not one. I would say easily one of the greatest movies of all time. But you know what? Hey, who am I to judge? I'm only a big fan of movies. Actually, or ironically, or coincidentally, or perhaps you saw this tweet of mine, but I actually watched Shawshank the other night for the first time.
Saw that.
Yeah, well, it's funny. You say once a month. There's a point in time where I watch that movie about once a week, maybe once every 10 days, just throw it on at the end of the night. I love the movie so much. It's one of those where I don't you know how it is. You just the feeling, the whole movie and the end. I can that's one of those movies like if I put it on, I never fall asleep.
Right.
There's times where it's like even movies I love, I'll put on at the end of the night. No, I'll fall asleep because I've seen it and it's late at night or whatever. Shawshank, I'm sitting there with toothpicks in my eye because I have to see the very end of the movie because
Yeah.
that is the big payoff at the end that is just so satisfying every single time I see it that it just brings a smile to my face and for a lot of reasons. I mean, obviously, I think the acting in the movie, the storytelling, everything about it, I just love it. It's a feel good type of movie for me. Like if I'm ever down in the dumps and I just want to relax and kind of clear my mind, I'll sit there and watch Shawshank. And that's what I did the other day. It was great. I loved it, and I was like, you know what? This was I'd probably gone. I want to say maybe about 3 4 months without watching it. I can't even. I mean,
Wow.
it was clearly the longest time I've ever gone in between viewings. So it was long overdue to say the least. But yeah, I will get on Million Dollar Baby. I know eventually I'm gonna have to do it. There's gonna be a time where I'm finally gonna sit down and do it. Um, you know, it's kind of like starting a new TV show. Like we all
Mhm.
have these lists of shows that we want to watch, but but it's not easy to really always put the attention into it like you should. And hey, it is what it is. I did watch another one though, another one, Suicide Squad. I don't know if you're a comic book fan or whatever, but I watched that.
Not really.
Yeah, well, you know, I wasn't a big comic book fan, but I like the movies. Obviously, I'm a
Mhm.
big, Marvel, all those movies. I love all those, and I can watch those over and over and over again. Um, but this one was a remake, a redo, a reboot. What I don't know. I've heard it called so many different things because we got the Suicide Squad a couple of years ago, and it fell really flat, just like you know majority of some of these DC movies over the last 10 years or so. They really haven't stacked up. Um, to their counterparts at Marvel or really just in general, because I'll sit there and talk about movies that are in the top 10 and most of those DC movies aren't even going to touch the top 100 movies of all time, let alone
Mhm.
top 10. So, but that was another movie I thought was really fun. Um, again, it's about perspective. Not every movie is going to have Oscar-worthy acting performances. You just got to, you got to appreciate it for what it is, and then you can appreciate the actual movie and what they did. And I thought both Jungle Cruise, obviously, and now Suicide Squad was a lot of fun. So,
Yeah, I do want to. I do want to see the Rock movie because I love the Rock. He to me is the modern day Schwarzenegger in that he's got that commanding presence on
mhm.
screen, but he also kind of has a wink and a nod and has fun with it. I thought that Sylvester Stallone after a while started taking himself a little bit too seriously, whereas Schwarzenegger always was kind of in on the joke, as is The Rock. And look, The Rock is what 6'5", 260. I mean, he's a huge hulking figure, but he's a really bright guy. I mean, I love him. I think his personality is just phenomenally jumps off the screen. So yeah, I've caught most of his movies, and he's a damn good actor.
No, he is, and
Yeah,
the reality of it is, look, I mean, I don't know him personally. I wish I did.
yeah,
Trust me,
yeah.
there's like three people that I would I don't know what I would do if I ever met him in person. Martin Brodeur, my childhood idol as a goaltender.
Hmm.
Obviously, Mr. Super Bowl Tom Brady, and The Rock.
Hmm.
The Rock. I mean, three
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, that's how big of a fan I am. Obviously, I'm a wrestling fan from his heyday. So it obviously started then. But I don't know. I like I'm not going to sit there and say he's the greatest actor of all time. No, that's not what I'm saying. This isn't you know that's not what I'm doing here. I just enjoy his work. I enjoy
Mhm,
what he does. Look, I think he's generally a really good person, and I don't think there are a
mhm,
lot of those people out there.
yep.
Um, when it comes to just celebrities or anything like that. I mean, there's always layers behind the surface, and with The Rock, I don't think there is. And look, if you're like I said, if you're a Rock fan, if you're a fan of him, I would check out Jumanji too. I really liked I really
Mhm.
enjoyed the remake of that because again, I mean, I was a fan of the original. I kind of okay, they're doing a remake. I'm not really a big gung ho for remakes because I feel like sometimes it just I don't know, it just never lives up to the hype. But to your point, I mean, it was fun. It was a really fun movie. If you want to relax, have a really really good laugh here and there, and just enjoy a fun movie, watch that. So, um, I
So
assure you, folks.
those would be your 3 dinner guests, right? So
Oh
it would
yeah,
be
absolutely,
Brady,
absolutely.
Brodeur, and The Rock. Because
A-
I've always asked that question. I actually got to write a column on that when I was writing at the Boston Herald, which shocked the hell out of me that they accepted it. But it was running on Sundays, which
Mhm.
their circulation is down in general, but Sundays the worst circulation. So they'd let me write whatever I wanted to. So I put out a column, 3 dinner guests, and I ask a lot of people that, and it has to be answered quickly. You can't even really think about it. It has to be, like first 3 people
Mhm.
that come to mind. And it can be anybody. It could be your deceased grandmother. It could be a fictional character. It could be your favorite athlete. Mine, 3 dinner guests were Thomas Jefferson. Let's see who else was on there. I believe Richard Nixon and Leonardo da Vinci. I
Oh,
thought that would be a pretty cool
when
dinner
you
guest. I stayed away from the athletes and
when you
movie
said
stars and
"Ugh,"
celebrities.
I was like, oh, he's going LeBron.
No, 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 no. I don't want to. No, I love LeBron as a basketball player and what he does socially, but I'm talking like historical figures. Like I think Nixon is the most interesting political figure of the 20th century. I think Leonardo da Vinci is the greatest man in the history of mankind, and I think Thomas Jefferson is the greatest American. So I'd like to go out to dinner with the 3 of them. I think would be at some point Da Vinci and Jefferson would have a pissing contest, right?
Yeah.
Like who's the smartest or who invented what or who founded what. So it'd be interesting. And Nixon would be all paranoid and everything. So those are my dinner guests. But it's always something that I like to ask people. Like, put out the 3 hottest women you think. I want to go out to dinner with Scarlett Johansson and whoever else.
Yeah. Hey, you know what? Number one's fine with me. We'll whoever else is
Yeah,
added to the mix doesn't matter.
could
That's
be
fine.
anybody.
I'm a big fan of ScarJo,
Mm-hmm,
of course. Which obviously that was another movie I've seen recently, Black Widow. But again, this isn't a
mm-hmm,
movie talk show. I mean, it can be. But I do want to talk
sure.
some sports here, because there has been a lot, especially recently. Obviously, we're in the middle of training camp. With preseason games starting this week. Obviously, the Patriots are kicking off Thursday. Other teams Friday and Saturday. The Super Bowl champion Buccaneers kick off their preseason on Saturday, and expect to see Mr. Tom Brady on the field. And speaking of Tom, he got a shout out from a fan at a recent live telecast. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and for those who didn't see it, I will make sure that everyone will be able to enjoy this. So hold on just a minute while I stall and get this up right now. And here it is.
Next year, acceptance speeches will probably shrink to 4 minutes. And speaking of rivals, my good friend Tom Brady is here tonight. By the time he is inducted, by the time Tom Brady is inducted in his first year of eligibility in the year 2035, he'll only have time to post his acceptance speech on his Instagram account.
Look, when you go into a Hall of Fame ceremony, and obviously Peyton Manning is one of those getting inducted, but also Troy Polamalu and some other guys that have history with the Colts, the Steelers, the Broncos. When Tom Brady gets mentioned, there's going to be a lot of boos. And that's what you got there. And look, I obviously, we all saw the clip. Tom turned around and say, "What did I do?" Well, Tom knows what he did. He won 7 Super
Mhm.
Bowls, and those guys didn't. So that's why he's getting booed. But the bigger thing is, congratulations, obviously, to Peyton Manning, who, obviously as a Patriots fan, you hated playing Peyton Manning, and I say to this day that uh, not Mahomes, not Rodgers, not Drew Brees, not anyone has ever put fear in my mind as a fan watching a game than Peyton Manning. Obviously, not being on the other side of facing Tom Brady, Peyton Manning is that guy that no matter what, you just never wanted him to have the ball. And I know we kind of poke fun at his 2015 run, um, but as limited as he was still Peyton Manning in 2015, and the Patriots played like he was Peyton Manning,
Mhm.
and he made enough plays to win that game, and the aura, the presence of him allowed that to happen. And that speaks a lot to who he is, and obviously his career and how great he was. And look, in many other realities, I'm sure maybe he's the greatest of all time because Tom Brady might not exist, or maybe Tom Brady doesn't do what he does in some other alternate reality because Peyton was great. And I personally have him third behind Brady and Montana because I think at the end of the day, winning does matter. And
Mhm.
not that Peyton didn't win. He just, I mean, again, it pales in comparison to Tom, and that's saying something considering how great Peyton Manning was. Um, so, again, it was a lot of fun. If anyone's ever, obviously listened or watched anything Peyton Manning has done, that he's a funny guy. I mean, we all
Mhm.
know his SNL skit. It's probably the last time SNL was actually funny, um, and that was the first time in a long time. So that's definitely saying something about the state of SNL. Sorry, Lauren, if you're listening, don't come at me. Don't sue me. Um, but it was a fun night. It was uh, it was good to see that entire group together. Obviously, you got both the 2020 Centennial class and the 2021 class because of the cancellations last year, and it was good to kind of see all of that come together. But you know what I found funny and interesting was that was Tom Brady's first time back to Canton since the Patriots played in the Hall of Fame game his rookie year, which
Right.
I thought was I was like, wow, really? Like, that is really, like, I would think at some point maybe he would have gone back, but I guess not. I guess not. So I'm sure he'll be there in a couple years for Adam Vinatieri's induction, and eventually, as Peyton Manning suggested, he will eventually get his name called in his bronze statue. And I hope I'm alive for it because unless he plays for another 70 years, I should be. Um,
I wonder why he didn't. I mean, he didn't attend Randy Moss or Ty Law. Now, again, they were in training camp at that time, and
I
of
think
course he's in
that's
training camp now. But I also think he's freer to do what the hell he wants in Tampa than when he was with the Patriots. Although Belichick was there for Randy Moss,
no, I think
so
I don't think it was any sort of. I think part of it was training camp, and there is part of it to maybe having a little bit more freedom. But I think I think just the unique relationship between the two.
mhm.
Not only the closeness, they're obviously really good friends off the field and have been for a long time. So all this bitterness between the fan bases that I mean they probably sit back and laugh at that. So I think that's a very unique thing. And look, you don't tell Peyton Manning. Peyton Manning's story as is so intertwined with Tom Brady. Like there's no way to
Mhm.
separate the two. So
Oh no, it's Chamberlain and Russell. It's the
yeah,
same thing.
there's
It's
yeah.
Bird and Magic. It's Mantle and Mays. Although they played in opposite leagues, when you think of Mickey Mantle, you think of Willie Mays, and vice versa. So yeah, I mean, it's one of the all-time great rivalries. And I'm sure Peyton Manning in certain moments is like, why did this guy come along?
Yeah.
Because if he didn't come along, Peyton Manning may have had 4 or 5 Super Bowls, right? I mean,
Oh, yeah.
2003,
Oh,
2004,
easily.
there's a real opportunity that he would have won the Super Bowl because in '04 it was the divisional round, and the year before was the AFC Championship game. And look, the Patriots dominated him in those 2 games. Belichick and that defense were in his head early in his career. But then as the career unfolded later on, I think Peyton Manning kind of figured out how to attack the Belichick defense, and the results were closer the final half of his career against the Patriots. In fact, it was pretty much a 500 record after losing, I believe, the first 5 or 6 games against the Patriots. So, yeah, I mean, no, I have him also third on my quarterback list. I have a list from the merger on. I mean, I don't know how to rank Johnny Unitas or Sammy Baugh or, any of those great quarterbacks, Otto Graham from a different era. I think they could have played in any era because they were, Johnny Unitas, if you see any highlights of him, had a cannon for an arm. It's not like he didn't have a strong arm. So, but in terms of from the merger on, I have Brady 1, Montana 2. I have Peyton Manning 3, and then I go with John Elway, who I've maintained that if all things were equal, John Elway may have been the greatest quarterback ever. In terms of the skill set was just, off the charts. But yeah, those 4 guys to me are the 4 best quarterbacks, and then you go into another level. My guy Rodgers is in the next level. If he can get a second Super Bowl, then he can be in the discussion with say Manning or Elway. But the Super Bowls matter, especially at that position. So yeah, I agree with you on the top 3, and I have Manning 4th. Who do you have 4th?
I
mean, I'm sorry, I have Elway 4th.
No, yeah. I think I agree with you, and I would honestly, I might have, because I did put out a top 10 list, and I might have, I think I might have put Otto Graham 4th because, like, obviously I wasn't alive to see him play, but I like to talk to people. I like to ask people, who have either seen him or have a far better understanding of the way they played, and based on everything that I've heard or read or whatever. To me, it's hard for me to not put him in there. But at the same time, I'm not blindly going to say, oh, because he did so well in the infancy of the NFL, he would have obviously just dominated this NFL. Like,
right?
No, I think
you don't know.
Yeah, and I think all too often people just default to that. Like, oh, Tom Brady can't be the GOAT. What about Otto Graham? He went to 9 championships. Well, some of those were essentially just having the best record in the league. Now, if you want to go back and be like, all right, well, how many times did the Patriots, led by Tom Brady, have the best record in the league? And you want to count those as championships, by all means, let's have that discussion. But like, I think there should be a healthy amount of respect given to guys like Otto Graham, Johnny Unitas for sure.
Absolutely. Otto Graham also had Jim Brown in the backfield with him.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, who I think is in the discussion with Brady as the greatest player of all time.
Yeah.
I mean, how do you compare quarterbacks and running backs? Although back in that era, the running back was more important than the quarterback. And I'm with you, Ian. I love to talk to the older guys who actually were in the game, like Upton Bell. I'm good friends with him. His dad was commissioner of the NFL. Upton was, in charge of scouting for the Colts, a team that was a wagon that won a Super Bowl. The GM here for 1 year was building something, and then Billy Sullivan screwed it up. And he knows football as much as anyone I've ever met. He's 84 and he still has fastball. He says Brady and Unitas are the 2 best quarterbacks that he's seen. Those are the 2 guys for him. Different eras, but he says they just have a command of the huddle, a command of the field. They were the real, generals out there that just, it kind of inspired their teammates. And that's why he puts them 1 and 2.
And that's really what, anyone who follows me on Twitter at IGLEN31 knows that I often get into these silly back and forth with people about quarterbacks because, again, the whole evaluation of quarterbacks is so upside down and backwards because, people are more enamored with everything but actual quarterback play when it comes to quarterback. It's like, oh, well, this quarterback can run fast. Well, why? Why does it matter? Quarterbacks don't need to run fast. They just need to make the right decisions. And I found it very interesting. We saw another one of these like little conversations between it was Charles Woodson, Roger Staubach, Tom Brady, and I believe Alan Faneca was to his right. Just at the Hall of Fame thing, just talking. And Staubach was marveling at Brady's ability to, certainly at his age, to go to another team and win a Super Bowl in his first year. And, obviously Charles jokes about, hey, he knows how to pick them. Again, those 2 are close and obviously go back to Michigan, teammates with the Wolverines. But more importantly, what Charles said was football's played from the shoulders up. That's where you become great, is from the shoulders up. And I don't think, again, I mean, in my football watching time, the only one, in my opinion, that comes close is Peyton Manning when it comes to the what's on top of your shoulders. I don't think there's ever been a smarter player than Tom Brady, and I think that means quite a bit. And obviously, fantasy players on Twitter will sit there and say, "Oh, well, his quarterback rating was only that." Well, I don't give a bleep, you know.
Right.
Quarterback rating is one of the most useless stats I've ever. I mean, there's so many useless stats in football. Um, Quarterback rating is probably the most useless because it does nothing to tell you about the play of a quarterback. Certainly now. I mean, maybe.
And we don't even know how they arrive at that number.
That's I'm not talking about QBR. I'm talking about quarterback rating.
No, I know. Even that.
Well, we have a
rating, right?
Passer rating.
Passer rating, and then there's the QBR. But even to get the passer rating, like I know the max is what 156.3. Like, why not round it off to 200 or something?
Well,
like, I don't even know how they arrive at that stat.
I have an idea. It's I don't have it in front of me, so I can't say it specifically. But it's essentially a combination of yards, completions, completion percentage, and touchdowns and interceptions. That's it. And it takes in. Yeah. So, like, for passer rating, a completion of 5 yards on a 4th and 20 in garbage time when you're getting blown out is worth just as much as a 5-yard completion on 4th down when it's 4th and 4 and you're down 5 plays. Yeah. So to me, passer rating is such a useless stat that it tells you absolutely nothing. But people will latch on to what they want, and the problem is
Kirk Cousins has a very good passer rating.
Exactly.
Right? I mean, great passer rating. Like I think he's the 16th best quarterback in football.
It's absurd. So to me, stats are essentially, if anything, garnish or complimentary dressing to the main dish, which is actually what you see and what from just what we've witnessed, and that is all played in the head. Not to mention, I mean, Tom's a very talented, skilled guy, and I kind of like this because this actually has kind of led into a tweet that I was going to share, and this is very it's very appropriate for this conversation because known Brady victim Ryan Clark constantly. I don't know. He clearly is obviously a little bit bitter. I mean, let's be honest. He's a little bit bitter about the essentially how his career played out against Tom Brady. And I'm gonna read you the tweet right now because I know you can't see it right now, John, because you're on the phone. But
I've seen it. Oh, but go ahead.
Yeah, for the audience out there, if you happen to be listening to this show on a podcast, the tweet is, "Okay, for real, I believe Tom Brady is the GOAT." Well, duh. I mean, if you deny it at this point, you're just a dummy. So yeah, good admission. I mean, really going out on the limb there, Ryan. But this is where it gets me. If you were taking one characteristic or trait from all the greats to build the perfect quarterback, which trait of Tom's would you use? Arm, brain, heart, legs? ? Hell nah, not legs. I actually don't know if you'd pick one of his. And I just stare blankly at the screen because, well, first of all, if you want to talk about perfect quarterback, well, take all of Tom Brady's traits. Because so far, he's shown to be a pretty damn perfect quarterback in the scheme of things. I mean, he never loses. I mean, he's been winning the moment he took over the starting job in New England.
He won at Michigan.
He won at Michigan. I mean, the last time he lost was his freshman year in high school. When the freshman team got disbanded. So if you want to talk about perfect this, perfect that, but look, the tweet is ridiculous because again, Ryan Clark's been one of these guys that have been burned and has had less success because of guys like Tom Brady, and specifically because of Tom Brady
and Aaron Rodgers. And Aaron Rodgers beat him in a Super Bowl. He says that the touchdown to Greg Jennings, which he zipped by Ryan Clark's ear, is like the best throw he's ever seen. The only thing I'll just push back on a little bit, Ian, is there's no question Brady's the greatest quarterback ever. I mean, we have the discussion every time I come on. I think what Clark was trying to say, and I don't want to put words in his mouth, is that Brady is greater than the sum of his parts, whereas other quarterbacks are less than the sum of their parts. Like, I think Brady has the best brain of any quarterback, along with Peyton Manning. We're right there on that. And I can't think of a quarterback with a bigger heart than him. Like, coming
that's
back
2 out of the 4 he listed.
3 down. Yeah, exactly. I mean, legs. No, it's
Well,
obviously Lamar
I will.
Jackson, and as
I
far
will
as
play.
running,
I
although
will
he's great inside the pocket, he moves
see.
inside the
Bingo.
pocket eloquently.
Bingo.
Yeah, no, I mean, so did
Let,
Dan Marino, who couldn't move either. Dan
let,
Marino, you couldn't stack him because he could slide in the pocket. My guy slides in the pocket as well. Aaron Rodgers, he
well,
can beat you with his legs as well. But yeah, I could see where Ryan Clark's going there, but I put him at the top in heart, brain. I think his arm is outstanding. I
it's
mean,
great.
one of the
It's a
most
great
catchable
arm.
passes I've ever seen. He threw all of those. 95% of his numbers came playing in Foxborough,
Yeah.
which is this cold, windy place. It's not, like I always would push back when people would say Peyton Manning's the greatest regular season quarterback ever. And if you on my Twitter handle at JohnSap25, I put out player A, player B yesterday. Player A is Peyton Manning. Player B is Tom Brady. Tom Brady's regular season stats are better than Peyton Manning's, not just cumulatively, but on a year-to-year basis. And he played in Foxborough. Peyton played in the Dome. I can make a case Aaron Rodgers is the greatest regular season quarterback because his numbers are through the roof. I didn't even go there, but I'm just comparing the two, great quarterbacks that we're talking about, Peyton Manning and Tom Brady. Yeah, I mean, it's to the point where with Brady, he's accomplished so much, and he leads what appears to be this perfect life. I mean, he's handsome. He's getting younger looking by the year. He's married to a supermodel.
Not unless you saw that photo of him and Dungy, though. That was kind of freaky.
Well, they look like, I thought it was the London Wax Museum for a moment. He tried that. I mean, it was just kind of like, whoa, guys, put some weight on. Fill out your cheeks a little bit. I mean, I look, and we both agree Brady is probably a weird guy, but you know what? What guy that isn't phenomenal at his craft isn't a little bit off? I mean, we're both huge Daniel Day-Lewis fans, our favorite actor. He's a strange dude. Like, you're not going to run into Daniel Day-Lewis at Dunkin' Donuts and have a conversation with him. He'd probably be hiding under the table. He wouldn't be at Dunkin' Donuts to begin with. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know of anybody that is that great at what they do, whether they're a doctor, a lawyer, whatever, that isn't a little bit off, right? So let's get over that. But as far as the skill set, this isn't like a Jedi mind trick that he's pulled on everybody for 20 years. And his crowning achievement to me is winning the Super Bowl last year, in my opinion, because the whole debate was Bill or Tom or Bill. Well, he kind of settled that debate last year, didn't he?
Yeah. Well, I mean, look, it depends because like I think I agree with you because I think the narrative made it seem like he needed to. Look, he hasn't had to do a damn thing since he came back from a 25-point deficit against the Falcons.
Right.
That was one of the most incredible Super Bowl performances. And all we hear is, well, Edelman made the catch. Well, the defense had to make plays. Well, guess what? A defense can shut out the other team. If it doesn't score a single point, you lose. You need the offense. Offense wins. Defense is nice, but it's an offensive game. But, going back to the tweet, I mean, we just kind of ran through those 4 things that he listed. And I think 3 of the 4, arm, brain, and heart, you're sitting there, well, definitely take the brain and heart from Tom. And I agree with you. His arm, it's another narrative that's been pushed that he somehow has a weak arm. And it's like, what the hell are you guys watching? What have you been watching for the last 20 years? I mean, he has a great arm, not only in throwing speed, accuracy, timing, release, all that stuff. So guess what? Arm, brain, heart, I'll take those. You know what? I'll take his legs too. Because guess what? Quarterback isn't about running around and scrambling. We saw what good it did for Aaron Rodgers and Patrick Mahomes. I mean, look, there's a reason why in the history of the NFL, there has never been a dominating running quarterback. And I'm saying for longevity wise, you're going to have seasons where you have guys that do very well. And I don't even really consider Aaron Rodgers a running quarterback. Obviously, I think he's far better in the pocket than most running quarterbacks. But this idea, and I don't know how we got, I mean, it's fantasy football. I understand it. It's the fantasy football aspect of it. But this idea that running and scrambling somehow gives you this great advantage is such a mystery. It's so wrong, but people believe it. And I'm sitting here thinking, well, it isn't. Look at the Aaron Rodgers play. I hate to keep bringing up Aaron Rodgers, but I like bringing up Aaron Rodgers. Don't get me wrong, but
that's okay. That's what I'm here for.
The end of the NFC Championship game.
Yeah.
All we hear about is how Aaron Rodgers can scramble and create plays that no one else can make. This, that, and the other. He has an opportunity to run the ball into the end zone. Why didn't he run? Wide
Oh,
open.
I'm with you 100%.
Why, so again,
100%.
what good is his athleticism and stuff if it doesn't even give him an advantage?
It,
Because at the end of the day,
it's a nice tool to have in the toolbox, right?
sure,
It really
sure.
is. I mean, there's moments where Lamar Jackson's going to make plays that just other quarterbacks can't, and Rodgers and Mahomes maybe can make some plays that Brady doesn't make, and that's all well and good. There's nobody that's perfect. I mean, LeBron's not the best shooter in the league, but you know what? He hits shots.
The problem is though, people confuse different types of play with not being so. Like people will sit there and point to Mahomes or Rodgers and say, "Oh, well, Brady can't make that throw." Well, no, he can. He can pinpoint a throw on the sidelines. He can throw to the back of the end zone. What people are confusing is all that nonsense in between, running around, scrambling, all this stuff. And it's like people are like, "Oh my god." And if it fails, guess what? You blame the offensive line like they did with Kansas City. And it's like now we're getting to the point where people will sit there with a straight face and be like, oh, they were without 4 offensive linemen in the Super Bowl. They lost 1 between the AFC Championship game and the Super Bowl. Now, I'm not saying that wasn't a big deal, but it's part of football. You have to deal with injuries.
And run the ball more. I mean, they had ample opportunities to run. The game was a game till the end of the second quarter when Kansas City lost their mind for about the 10th time in the game, and the Buccaneers took advantage of it for the 10th time in the first half. But run the football. They were averaging 6 yards a carry. Tampa Bay was essentially saying, run the football.
Yeah.
We want to take away your passing game. Well, then, Andy Reid and his supposed great coaching staff should have made those adjustments, or even maybe Patrick Mahomes could have.
No, that's exactly
something that Peyton Manning would do. All right? And again, and again, Mahomes is still a young guy and he's learning. But one of the things a quarterback can do is check out to a run. My guy knows how to do that as well. I mean, the Packers, he has that ability. When he gets to the line of scrimmage, he can check out of a pass to a run. The great quarterbacks can do that. Maybe Mahomes isn't quite there yet, or if he is, he didn't want to do it because he wanted to win in style, and then they end up kicking 3 field goals the entire night. So. Yeah, no, I the whole thing, it almost feels to me like the best center fielder I ever saw was Andrew Jones, who never really made spectacular plays because it just looked like he was always in the right place at the right time. Like someone would hit a gap shot and you go, okay, that's going to be a double or a
he's
triple.
just up there,
and
fly ball.
Just standing there, right? Whereas another guy who was just out of position, ran the wrong way off the crack of the bat, and then had to make up time, makes this diving catch, and you go, oh, wow, what a great catch. Well, Andrew Jones made the same catch, except he made it look easier.
Exactly.
It's one of the reasons I don't like Marcus Smart. It seems to be like, the gerbil on the wheel type of feel to him, like he's constantly running around out there, and I don't know what the hell he's doing, and I'm going to have to bite my tongue on Russell Westbrook because I know that popular movies with the Lakers, and I love watching Russ play. He's one of my least favorite players, though, because of the way he plays, but that's going to be a challenge watching him, run around as a gerbil on the wheel. Going 100 miles an hour and really not going anywhere. But yeah, so Brady's movement in the pocket is exquisite. I mean, Montana's was like that, and so was Dan Marino's like that. That's where you want your feet more than running.
Well, and that's a great point because at the end of the day, you get this commentary saying like, oh, Brady could never do this, and you see highlights of Mahomes running all around. Well, if you actually look at the tape, you can see that he, more often than not, Mahomes is bailing out way too early. He's bailing out way too early because he's not at the point where he can diagnose defenses, as certainly not at the level of Tom Brady's. So that's why I push back so much when I hear, oh, well, Mahomes is clearly the best quarterback in the league. No, he's not. Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers are better than Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
And,
I agree with you.
It's obviously because not only do those two players both stack up statistically, which that's all people care about nowadays, they're smarter. They're both smarter.
Yeah.
They're both better at reading defenses. They're both better at just making better decisions. And look, maybe Patrick Mahomes gets to that point. I'm not saying that's not the case, but this idea that he is just the best quarterback in the league, he's not. Tom is, and I've been pumping that. This isn't a new thing for me. You know me. I've been saying this for a better part of the last year and a half when everyone was saying he was done, but.
You'll be saying that when he retires, 5 years after he retires, when you're in Canton in 2035.
Oh, I'll be there.
His Hall of Fame induction. Oh God, yeah.
I
want to go. I'll go to Rogers maybe. I want to see Bonds get inducted into the Baseball Hall of Fame. I mean, I went up there back in June, and we had a pilgrimage to try to get him in. So yeah, if it ever happens, I'll go up there to see that. But you'll be there in 2035 when Tom gets inducted So, and you'll still say, you'll be the guy yelling from the stands, he's still the best quarterback in football at like 58 years old or whatever age you'll be at that point.
The day that I see his play slip off, I will admit that he's not the best quarterback in the league. But I on the life of my mother, I've never seen it happen. Okay, and
no,
people,
he's still right, and yeah, exactly. No, I mean, now you can pick some, like I'll say Rodgers, but there's he's definitely in the discussion, and it's not a wrong answer to say that.
Well, and I get into these discussions a lot because, like, first of all, the way I believe, I mean, stats are nice. Again, I've railed on stats before because especially in football and especially at the quarterback position, it's impossible to quantify every single nuance of the game. So I don't care how many different stats you use. I don't care which stat you use. Not a single one of them can accurately tell you the way someone played. And that's just how I believe, because one, you can't measure what's in these guys' heads. And I think, people sit there and just not be able to grasp how, Tom Brady is, as great as Aaron Rodgers is, Tom Brady's just on another level, and people cannot grasp that because they don't understand the difference between the mental part of it and how much of an advantage that is for Tom, and how he handles and how he prepares and how everything that goes into playing the quarterback position, he does at such a exceptional level. And that's not to say Aaron Rodgers doesn't. It's just that Tom is the greatest of all time. Therefore, no one does it at his level. And we sit there and criticize Aaron Rodgers. We nitpick. We nitpick because he's compared to Tom Brady. And when you nitpick, you dive into the details and you're like, okay, well, at the end of the day, where did Aaron Rodgers' legacy go wrong? From trajectory to being the greatest to being a great quarterback now and potentially in that mix in the top 10. Well, in the NFC Championship games.
Yeah, no, I'm with you.
1 and 4.
4 disappointments. Yeah.
4 disappointments. Poor play for the majority of those games. And no matter what you want to blame it on, whether it's Bostic this or Kevin King that or Mike McCarthy or, all these excuses that get made, the bottom line is he plays marginally better in a couple of those games.
Oh, God, yeah.
He's playing in 3 or 4 Super Bowls, and we can have a totally different discussion. So I don't want to hear.
No, they should have won the Super Bowl in 14 and 20. I thought they were the best team. I thought he was the best player. And the 4 NFC Championship games that he's lost, I know his defense has given him a lot of points, but even in the 2 blowouts against Atlanta and San Francisco, he put 0 points on the board in the first half. So that's on him. If your defense is giving up points, you can't just go back to the bench and say, "Well, we're all done." You got to keep up with them, right? If you're playing basketball against the 2017 Golden State Warriors, you got to come out and score points. You're not going to shut them down. So, no, I'm with you. I mean, it's weird too, Ian, because in his 3rd year he won a Super Bowl, and it's like that. Now that should be something that kind of relieves the pressure off you, right? Get that load off your shoulders that you go ahead and win more. I think that's one of the great things about Brady. I mean, of course, he won 3 in his first 4 years, which is absurd. But then I always give Brady a lot of credit because then they went 9 years without one, and then he's won 4 out of the last 7. So it's kind of like, wow. Well, but that got out of the way early in his career. Like Manning struggled to get that first Super Bowl in I believe his 8th or 9th year, kind of like LeBron in his 9th year or whatever. Even Jordan had to wait 7 years to win a championship. Rodgers' 3rd year as a starter, I know he backed up far for 3 years, but 3rd year as a starter won a Super Bowl. So that should have lifted the burden. Like, I know how to do this. Let me go do it again.
Well, in a way though, that can also stunt the growth because all of a sudden maybe you get into your mind, oh, this is easy. And then because the following season they go 15-1, and you're thinking, oh wow, I mean this team is just a house. Then they get beat, and that's that. I mean, it's been 10 years or 11 years since they won, and so so there's so many things to go along with it. And Kyle commented that you just had to mention Bostic. I'm sorry, Kyle. It's part.
No,
that's part of
the. That's a rough one on me. I mean, that's a rough one. But again, I mean, the game was there for them to win. They recovered an onside kick to go to the Super Bowl, play the Patriots, which would have been. But up until that point, Rodgers did not play well. He just didn't. He was, again, that was against an all-time great defense. But I don't know, 2 weeks later, Brady cracked the code against that same all-time great defense and was ridiculous in the fourth quarter. So I've said this a million times about Rodgers, and again, I'm his biggest fan. Love him. Love watching him play. I think he overthinks things to the point where it's like paralysis, you know, caused by overanalysis. Whereas I think Brady keeps it obviously the brightest quarterback ever, but he keeps it to that. Whereas I think Rodgers like gets into some other sort of mindset
and
where
it's not just them as individuals too. That also translates to the entire team because the quarterback obviously is the guy, offense and defense.
He's the
looks
leader.
at him. Yeah, exactly.
And that transfers into their lives. Like Brady's close with his family. He's still close with his parents. He's close with his sisters. And Rodgers doesn't talk to his family, and he has teammates that he doesn't speak to. And I think he wants to be Michael Jordan with like the scorched earth thing, but he can't pull it off.
Well,
there's only so many sociopaths in the history of sports. Brady being one of them, Jordan being another, Kobe Bryant being another, along with say Tiger Woods and Barry Bonds. Those are the 5 sociopaths that I've seen in sports, and I'm using that term in a complimentary way.
Well, and we talked about this, a couple times off the air and just in private conversations. And, there's a fine line, in my opinion, between arrogance and confidence. And that comes with, you're confident if you can back it up. You're arrogant if you believe you have a higher view of yourself than you actually are. And I think that's Aaron Rodgers' problem. And this kind of goes back to the press conference, which, we both talked about. We love it as media. Oh, it's great. Oh, it's so great because it's juicy. It's got sound bites. It's gold. It's gold. But if I'm a Packers fan, a realistic Packers fan, like I understand there's a devotion to Aaron Rodgers that I would have if I were a Packers fan. He's a great quarterback, one of the all-time greats. But when you hear him up there saying, people don't come to Wisconsin for the weather. They come here for me, and they come here to win championships. If I'm a fan, let alone someone who's pushing back at this narrative that he's, the greatest. If I'm a fan of the Packers, I'm sitting there scratching my head saying, wait a minute. Like, I like you, Aaron Rodgers, but like, what do you mean championships? Plural. Like, what are you talking about? Division championships? Is that what you want to attain? So I think it's gotten to a point now where I think he is arrogant. And I think it affects him. It affects him negatively because kind of what, to your point, when things don't go right, all of a sudden he wonders why, because he expects them to go right. Although they have, you know what I mean? Like, so to me, I don't know. There's, like I said, arrogance, confidence, it's such a fine line. And I think, you have to be a little bit arrogant to be confident and vice versa. But at the same time, like it's a very slippery slope because
or don't go public with it either. Like, don't say something. Like, you can think. I'm sure they all think that. Like, Ben Roethlisberger, who hasn't won a Super Bowl since 2008, probably thinks the same way. But don't necessarily go public with it. That's where Brady is guarded. Although I like the new Brady since he's been in Tampa, where he kind of sounds like the old guy that doesn't give a bleep anymore and doesn't have a filter. That's fine. I think that's the way he always wanted to be. And now that he's out of, private school where you have to wear a shirt and tie and have your hair a certain length, now he's in college. And you know what? He can stay up late and miss a class if he wants to and have fun. Because that's really the difference between being with Bill Belichick and Bruce Arians. That's the, complete opposite. So, keep that maybe to yourself. Although the press conference was just gold.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that was just, my Lord, that was, and I do compare Rodgers a lot to Kevin Durant. And that they're, I think, like the most talented guys ever, maybe. But there's something a little bit off there. They seem to be very petty and have issues with teammates and fans and media and all this other stuff. And but at least Durant, in basketball, you kind of do that. In football, as a quarterback, you got to be a little bit better than that.
Yeah, and again, we're nitpicking, but the bottom line is these are the 2 best quarterbacks in the league today, and I don't think it's relatively close. So, speaking of late, though, we are a little bit late because we've gone over our time because we're having such a wonderful discussion, John. So we are going to have to say goodbye. We'll be back, or there'll be some semblance of the show on air tomorrow. We'll figure it out. But join us tomorrow at 9 a.m. Give John a follow at JohnSapp25. Of course, you can find me on Twitter. It's at IGLEN31. Have a great day, folks, and get ready for some preseason football. And get ready to be sick of it 5 minutes in and yearn for regular season football because that's how it goes. Have a great day, folks, and we'll talk to you tomorrow.